Hello, welcome to Math Blossoms, where growing in mathematics is natural. Today's lesson topic is why do we learn math? Okay, let's get prepared for today's lesson. We're going to need a pencil, some paper to take some notes, and also an open mind. Keep an open mind today. Don't forget to pause the video from time to time to answer some practice questions at the end, and rewind the video if you need to review anything before trying to answer the questions. All right, I'm Miss G, and I have made this video for my students. I'm a middle school math teacher, and one of the most common questions I get every year is, why do we learn math? This is hard, Miss G. Why are we doing this? And so I thought I'd make a video just trying to explain some of the reasons why we learn math in school and why it's important. Because sometimes when you understand why it's important, it gives you motivation to want to learn it more. So keep that open mind, because some of the things you may learn about today in this video may be something you haven't heard before. So just keep that open mind, and we'll learn why we like to learn math in school. Okay, so our first thing we need to do is to talk about what is math. Okay, so what is mathematics? Mathematics is the study of numbers, shapes, and patterns. So a lot of these ancient, Greek philosophers, and they were sitting around going, well, how do we explain all of these things that are happening in nature around us? And they started noticing patterns and shapes and things in nature that were happening over and over again with different subjects and different things. The word is a Greek word meaning science, knowledge, or learning. And these ancient philosophers were very smart, and they realized that we have to organize, we have to come together and organize and try to, recognize how nature works. Because if we can recognize how nature works and understand ourselves and the world around us, then we can, help change our world to make it a better place, right? And so if you've ever heard, somebody say in your family or something, well, I'm just not a math person, so I don't get this stuff. That's not even true, because there is no such thing as a math person. If you're able to do any math problem, like 1 + 1 is 2, you're a math person, okay? It's just a lot of times people think that they aren't good at math because they're born that way. And math is not a subject that you're born with. It's a subject that you have to work at. It's kind of like learning a musical instrument. Sometimes people can learn to play the piano and they're really good right at first, and they don't have to practice too much because they kind of just pick up on things really fast and learn it really fast. But, most of us have to practice. Most of us have to really study and practice to get better at a musical instrument. And that's kind of how math is. We can learn how to do it, but until we practice it, we don't get as good at it. So it's better to think of it that way. It's better to think of it as a subject that you have to practice, that you have to work at to get better at. So don't think you're not a math person, because everybody's a math person, okay? Also, these are the essential questions we're going to answer in today's lesson. The first is list at least 3 reasons why we learn math. Explain how learning math helps your body physically. And name at least 3 career paths in which math is required and helpful. Okay, the first one is, why do we learn math? Okay, this is the obvious reason: school. Okay, we learn math because it's part of our curriculum at school. Math is needed to graduate into higher levels of academic coursework. Okay, so why do you think they've included math as part of the curriculum at school? Why do adults decide that that is something they want their children to learn in school? Okay, well, adults know that when a student engages with mathematics, it teaches them some very useful character traits, such as patience, persistence, which is the determination or never giving up when things get hard, and also the value of working hard itself. Okay, so math is one of those subjects that don't come easy for a lot of people. And so you tend to have to work a little harder at it to learn it. And that's something that is a really good character trait to learn, because honestly, if we didn't do hard things, our lives would not be as much fun as they are. And I'll explain that later too. All right, so school is a good reason, but what about our second reason? Physical exercise for our brains. We learn math because it's a great way to give our brains the physical exercise it needs. It needs that workout, okay? So if you're working out your arms, your legs, your stomach, all these things, but you're not doing anything with your brain to work it out, that's not good, okay? We want everybody to work their brains out like they do their bodies, okay? So even if it's hard, that means you're doing some good for your brain, okay? Math challenges people to use parts of their brain they may not use very frequently. So it creates these physical neural connections or pathways in your brain to assist you later in logical thinking or reasoning. Okay, so again, we're going to talk about that when we do our third reason. But the physical part of learning math is important. It creates those pathways in your brain that allow you to make decisions and solve problems later in life. And that's our lesson number three, which is, or reason number three, I should say, which is that math helps us to solve problems in real life. We learn math because it helps to train our brains to use logical reasoning instead of emotions to find solutions to everyday problems. Use logic to answer everyday problems, or using logic can help us obtain better results than we do when we act impulsively on our emotions. So here's a good example of two cartoon characters. So we have the brain and the heart. So the brain is noted as using logic, and the heart's usually, where our emotions are said to come from. So do you think this was overkill for a harmless spider, is what the brain's saying, and the heart saying, well, it was icky. So it looks like this heart decided to flamethrow this spider and burn up the living room floor instead of just maybe taking a piece of paper, getting the spider and taking it outside, or something that's a little more logical and reasonable. This this heart kind of overreacted and made a mess, basically. So it's not always good to act on our emotions. It's good to think about it and to come up with a solution that's reasonable, that is better for everyone, than to just act all the time on how we feel, because that can cause more problems to happen many times. All right, so number 4 is the careers, okay? So math, it opens opportunities for us to be qualified in a variety of careers. Now, this is not by any stretch of the imagination all of the careers that involve math, but this is a good snapshot of a few of them. And no matter what your career choice is, math is looked upon highly by employers. Employers look for people who work for them that have good reasoning or logic skills, perseverance, which is another word like persistence, where it means you don't give up even when things get hard, patience, and a strong work ethic. Okay, so patience goes in line with perseverance. So, be patient with yourself. If you get it wrong a few times, eventually you'll learn what your mistakes are and then start getting it right. And, I've been practicing math longer than most of my students have been alive, and I still make mistakes from time to time. So it's part of learning math, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just something that helps us grow and get better. Okay, so people who study math practice these good character traits, and even if these are none of the career choices that you have, math again can help you with those logic skills, that good strong work ethic that employers are always looking for, that helps a lot of people become successful. So just keep that in mind when you're learning math. Okay, so before I go on to to reason number 5, I keep saying lesson 5 instead of reason 5. Let's review lessons 1 through 4. Okay, so the first reason was that school, right? So in school, we have to learn math in order to get a good grade so we can go to college and all of that. So that's one reason, right? And then the second reason was physical activity for our brain, right? Physical activity for our brain, doing things that your brain's not normally used to doing, creating those neural pathways. Number 3 was helping us to reason out our problems, using that logical thinking instead of using emotions all the time to guide our decisions. And then the fourth reason was, great career opportunities open up for those people who decide to focus on math in school. And it does look really good on a resume to have those courses taken in college or in high school to those employers who are looking for good, employees to work for them, they're going to look at somebody who is, persistent enough and who has a good, work ethic to succeed in their math studies. And then the fifth reason is my favorite reason, which is math is fascinating. We learn math because it is the fascinating language of the universe, and math is everywhere, including within you. And I'm going to explain why that, like just three, just a couple of little reasons why math is fascinating that you may not have ever thought about. Okay, so I've got all these images up here, so I'm going to explain some of these. Okay, the first thing is the Fibonacci sequence. Okay, and the Fibonacci sequence is related to this golden ratio as well, so they kind of go hand in hand. But the Fibonacci sequence is a sequence of numbers that can be found everywhere in the universe. Okay, so let me explain how the sequence works. Okay, so the Fibonacci sequence starts with 0 and 1. The first two numbers are 0 and 1. And then when we add those two numbers together, we get another one. Okay, so the sequence is basically adding the last two numbers together to get the next number. So I added 1 plus 1 to get this 2. 1 plus 2 is going to give me a 3. Then I add these two last numbers together to get a 5. And then 3 plus 5 gives me a 8. And then 8 plus 5 gives me a 13. And then 13 plus 8 gives me a 21, and so forth. Okay, so I'll put some dots so you can see that it just goes on and on and on. Okay, so the Fibonacci sequence is a very simple sequence of numbers that can be found in nature, including off the planet. Like it's the way spiral galaxies are forming. It's the way the spirals inside of a sunflower grow. This is how. This is why I chose sunflower as my my YouTube channel symbol, because it's a good example of mathematics in nature. Just like these spirals for this plant here, the seashells, these little dandelions that you can, blow and make a wish on, those things, they grow in this Fibonacci sequence as well. Your DNA, guys, your DNA has these spirals in it. Okay, so this is inside of you. Okay, and I want you guys to understand that, if we hadn't studied math, we wouldn't have recognized these patterns that we see in nature. And because we recognize these patterns, we can predict how things are going to go, and we can create things that are useful to us in this world. And I'll go into that on the next slide. But also, there's these things called fractals, which is, you can see them in the way trees grow and the way plants grow, and lightning is creating fractals, and the capillaries, the blood vessels in your body, they grow in fractals. And fractals is like you take a shape, and then the smaller shapes that branch off of it are like copies of the original shape. So you're going to see, like if you've ever noticed, a tree has these branches come out, and then the branches that come out kind of look like the branches that were there to start with. So it's like it's copies of the same shape over and over again, just get smaller and smaller and smaller. These are called fractals, and you see those everywhere in nature. Okay, another thing you see in nature are shapes like these hexagons here, like the honeybee. Without making these hexagon shaped hives, we might not have the honey that we love to eat today. There's just so much math all around us, and including within us, including within our own blood vessels, and in our DNA. So I find that extremely fascinating. And when we understand that, we can do so many things with it. For instance, math makes life more fun. Okay. And what I mean by that is, when things get hard and we're learning math, that doesn't mean we give up. That means we actually need to try harder, because the hard things that we learn typically end up with the greatest results. For instance, like, the Wright brothers, when they were trying to design the first airplane, you think they came up with it and started off with a plane that flew immediately? I don't think so. I think they tried a few things before they finally got one that worked well and learned how aerodynamics works. So, if they gave up because it was hard, we might not have air travel today. Okay, so the hard things that we do sometimes have the greatest results. automobiles, the way engines work, cell phones, computers, video games, sports. We all use math in these things that we enjoy and that we do every day. And if people think, well, I get this from my students too sometimes when they say, well, if the calculator can multiply the numbers for me, then why do I need to learn how to multiply numbers? Well, don't forget that those calculators were created by humans, okay? Those computers were programmed by humans. Those video games were created by humans. If humans didn't understand how math worked, none of these things would have been created so that we can use them today. So it is extremely important that we learn math so that we can make our life a better place and uncover these and create these wonderful inventions that we use every day. I personally am a roller coaster enthusiast, so I put one of this famous coaster here, Kumba, in my picture to show you that without math, there's no way we would have all these incredible coasters being built, and of course that provides a lot of fun for a lot of people at amusement parks and theme parks. So again, math is everywhere, and we, as human beings, we need to respect that and respect that, we're important too, and understanding math and how our world works leads to wonderful things for humanity. So let's pause and try to answer the first essential question. List at least 3 reasons why we learn math. So go ahead and try to jot down 3 reasons real quick. I'll count to 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, so here are the reasons we talked about: school requirements, physical exercise for our brains, helping us solve problems in real life by using that logical thinking instead of emotional thinking, great career choices or opportunities that open up for you with math knowledge, and also math is just a fascinating subject to learn about. Second essential question, explain how learning math helps your body physically. 1, 2, 3. All right, so math is a workout for your brain, and it challenges us to use parts of the brain that we may not use very frequently, and it creates those neural connections or pathways in our brain to assist us later in logical thinking or reasoning. Okay, so remember, when we're doing these essential questions, the idea is to pause and try to answer it yourself and then move on to the next question, okay? All right, the last one, name at least 3 career paths in which math is required and helpful. And if you name some that's not on the slide that I showed you, that's perfectly fine. There's more than just the ones I showed you. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. All right, so here are some of those wonderful career paths: meteorologist, astronaut, biologist, analyst, network analyst, computer programmer, archaeologist, park naturalist. There's so many things: physicist, space scientist, surveyors, dentist, chemist, electricians. There's a lot. Nurse. But there's even more than this. So if you picked one that wasn't on the list but you need math for, that's fine as well. All right, so growth mindset in math. Now this is something I want to show all of my students, but I think it's very important that we keep a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. So intelligence and talent is fixed at birth. That is what we think when we have a fixed mindset, is that, whatever we're born with, whatever smarts we have when we're born is what we have, and we're not going to get any better, right? Whereas a growth mindset is intelligence and talent can be developed and grow, okay? So this first column here is showing us, the fixed mindset, and then this second column here is showing us what a growth mindset would say. So like if you said, I'm not good at math, instead think of it this way: if I can get better in math if I work hard, because that is so true. If you put effort into it, you'll get better, okay? It's a bad mistake. It's bad to make a mistake. Don't think like that. Mistakes are good. My brain grows when I make a mistake. So again, you're going to make mistakes your whole life. The idea is to try not to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. And sometimes you might make that mistake 2 or 3 times before it finally clicks and you stop making it. But the idea is to try to get better and not to, put yourself down or beat yourself up if you make a mistake. Just try to not do it again. The problem is too hard. This is what I see a lot in the classroom. This problem is too hard. This problem is challenging, and I can use my strategies to solve it. Okay, so again, even if it's hard, try your best to get those logical solutions to those problems, because if we gave up on everything that's too hard, we wouldn't have airplanes today. We wouldn't have cell phones. We wouldn't have so many things that we love to use today. What grade did I get? Don't worry so much about the grade. Just worry about how much am I learning? Am I learning some math? If you're learning some math, you're doing good, okay? And I can't do this. Don't think about the word can't. I don't like it when people say that in my classroom. Don't say that. Say, I can't do this yet. That word yet is extremely powerful, okay? So that's telling you, well, I may not know how to do this now, but give me some time and I'll get it, I don't want to ask for help. I can ask for help. I'm already good at math. I could stretch my brain and learn more. So never think you know it all, because, again, I've been learning math and doing math longer than a lot of my students have been born, and I still learn new things about it. So there's always stuff out there to learn. Nobody knows everything, okay? I've done enough, or how can I make this even better, okay? So some growth mindset suggestions there. All right. So a bouquet of math blossoms have opened up in your mind today. So to further improve your math language skills, remember to practice, study 10 minutes each day, ask for help if you need it, learn from your mistakes, and always try. I end this lesson every time with that. And now it's time for me to say, and I really hope that you learned a little bit about why we learn math, and that you don't feel so frustrated about, the fact that you're having to learn math as a middle schooler. It's just part of our world and our universe. And it's really, honestly, the question should be, why don't we learn math? Because that's one of the most important subjects out there that we can learn. So if you ever get down on yourself for not knowing the answer or anything like that, just pick yourself back up, try again, and just know, I may not have it now, but I can get there. So yet is a good thing to add to the end of that sentence. When you say, well, I don't know how to do this, say, I don't know how to do this yet, and then just keep trying, and eventually you'll get there. So I'm Miss G, and thank you for watching Math Blossoms video. And now it's time for me to say, it was lovely teaching you math today. Bye.